This semester has been very productive for me. The historical references I am showing today are just the beginning of what I am looking at in terms of creating my own work. Some serve as inspiration, while others show what has come before me. Yves Klein, Anthropometry, created in 1960, shows the performative act of creating body prints. This is of great interest for me. The shapes created by pressing bodies against the canvas reference the body in an abstract way. I've lifted prints off of the body before in small sections, investigating the marks made by normal skin and scar tissue, but they were so small that the body was lost entirely. So I created my own set of body prints a la Klein, but I've tried to enhance the scarred area in the print. Unhappy with these prints, I used them as exploration in deconstruction and reconstruction, as well as renewal, in both 2D and in 3D. I used a mannequin form press mold for speed. Here's a detail. And another detail. My venture into three-dimensional figurative work brought me back to look at Kiki Smith. Hard Soft Bodies from 1992 inspired me to work with different materials. I've used handmade paper before, but this time I decided to add other materials to the pulp. I began thinking about materials for what they imply, not just their aesthetic qualities. So here I'm using coffee grounds mixed in the pulp. This is a detail shot. This piece is made out of beeswax, and the cracking and melting of the wax are areas that became skin for me. This reminds me of like a scar. This kind of looks like skin. My interest in surface led me to look at Manuel Neri. This piece in particular, Arco de Gesso number 6 from 1985, along with Jenny Saville, her portraits like Bleach, made in 2008, inspired my future surface treatments. Keeping in mind the implications that materials carry, I chose materials for my pit fires with specific metaphoric implications. Coffee, which wakes you up, also has health benefits, or so some studies have shown. Some of the benefits, such as protecting against Parkinson's disease, type 2 diabetes, and liver cancer, have been explored in studies according to Donald Henstrand, MD. This is a close-up of that texture and what the coffee did to the clay. Dog food used in the pit fire was used because it provides sustenance for animals, promoting healthy service animals. This piece had paper burnout in it. This is a detail shot of what the dog food did, and along with the paper burnout. The use of Miracle-Gro was used because it promotes the growth of plants that can be used to treat illness or provide sustenance. But the juxtaposition of these materials so far, and with their implications and the way that they have reacted to the clay, which looks more like a growth or disease or decay, was really interesting for me. The use of salt was chosen because it preserves food, it promotes healing, and it's needed for life. This is a close-up view of what the salt and Miracle-Gro on this piece created. The paper burnout was an experiment with texture where I had very little control over the outcome. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see where there was a blowout. That became an area of interest for me. This embossed area that has the cracking and the dark spaces, along with the skin coloration, was a rich area. So here I'm using plexiglass, and the use of plexiglass for me juxtaposes the natural and healthy materials. And the melted plexi became skin on the form, diseased and decaying. I came to Antony's work because I was looking at materials, using materials that I'm less familiar with. He uses alkaline dye in this piece for drawing, and I'm not really drawing in my work, but I'm using sculpture in a way that I think becomes somewhat evocative of drawing. This is a sculptural piece, but I think it has a lot of qualities that a drawing has. Here's a close-up view. And I wanted to incorporate objects like this that are clear and less rigid in their form with my more figurative work. So here are some combinations that I thought were interesting, or at least ways to attempt to get rid of that specific figurative form while still keeping in mind that the body is there. There's a way to activate the space, I think, a little bit. And this piece was originally one that broke in the firing and became two pieces, and here I've combined them again. This is a way of looking at blurring the edges of what each piece can hold when they're stacked and turned on each other. So as a way of activating the space that the objects live in, Ted Lawson provides a really good example here in Death of a Narrative from 2013. And I wanted to activate some of my own pieces in a different way. I'm looking at ways that I can have the object, but also think about the object in different terms. Here I've used the dog food that it was fired with. And then in this one, I'm using the dog food on the left and salt on the right. And here we have salt again. This was a really interesting display for me with the salt and the actual plexiglass piece. The white background really brings out the smokiness of the plexiglass, but then you get into areas like this that I think become really interesting to look at. As I'm moving forward, I'm thinking about three different questions. How do I show the passage of time through sculpture? I don't think I've quite done that yet, but it's something that I'm interested in doing as I move forward. And how do I activate the space an object lives in? I'm starting to think about that, and I'd like to really focus on that perhaps next semester. And the third question that I'm looking at is how can I use the body and its pathologies as landscape? That's kind of an interesting place for me that I really want to explore more next semester.